Welcome back to a very special episode of Psycosmos. Today we have the phenomenal Santos Bonacci here, musician, visionary, the man, the myth, the legend, Santos. He's here to spread some light and some wisdom with us today. So Santos has actually been on YouTube for quite some time. He's been on YouTube for over a decade. He's been making content that has been geared towards spreading truth, wisdom about not only the human body, but also spirituality and connecting a lot of dots, which is extremely vital in an age of misinformation. So Santos, if you're ready, why don't you take us away, give us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a syncretist, and that means that I pertain to the ancient schools of thought, where everything was a oneness. And so syncretism's been the perennial philosophy since the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. And it always is, and it always will be. It is the field of knowledge of mystical and spiritual levels and of scientific levels, which enables the individual to see how the unified mind sees the universe, not the divided mind. Mm-hmm. So the God mind.
Yes.
So syncretism enables to activate the God mind. Sometimes it happens in reverse, but usually awakening happens through knowledge, the other way around.
Yeah, and when we started on our journey a few years ago, one of the things that we came across through our studies was Santos and his work. And I remember specifically the day we discovered your YouTube channel and your videos, which enlightened us to the point of sending us down this path in which we started our own channel, Psycosmos, in order to spread the truth. We were actually doing studies on the Yuga cycle, the 24,000 precessional cycle of the equinox. Basically, we got to a point where we were theorizing that there were essentially seasons of this cycle which were parallel with the destruction of certain civilizations on the planet that were basically resets. When we discovered Santos talking about these topics, it really enlightened us, and it blew up in our own mind. But one of the things that Santos actually pushed us through the best was the sacred secretion. And for those of you who might not know, who might not have seen our videos on our channel, the sacred secretion is a biological process that essentially enables you to enlighten yourself, and not only that, but connect to the universe in a much deeper way. What do you have to, I guess, share with us about your journey discovering the sacred secretion and discovering this ultimate human truth?
Yeah, well, it's undeniable. All the scriptures have a spiritual protocol for sexuality. It's a guidance system to ascension through sex, which is a divine gift. Mm-hmm. So this is why spiritual people would go to seminaries to become priests and priestesses, because they needed to understand the sexual fluids in the seminaries, and how sacred and how pivotal and significant this role is in the process of ascension. Generally, the sex practiced of most common humans is that they ejaculate. Right. And even when they're not having sex for procreation, just for pleasure, for instance, romance. Mm-hmm. And so they misuse not only sex, but they misuse their bodies by doing so. Mm-hmm. Very destructive, because the more liquid you eliminate from your body, which is sacred fluid, cerebrospinal fluid it is, and a mix. So it converts from cerebrospinal fluids. The more you eat from this tree of life, the more you will die. Yeah. So the scriptures are never prohibiting orgasm, but they do prohibit ejaculation. And even for procreation, it's not necessary to ejaculate. I know personally some people who have procreated without spilling a seed.
Absolutely agree with that. We've been on our own sacred secretion binge for about roughly 2 years since we discovered your work. And since then, we've started reading a lot of the key books, not only things such as like the Bible, for example, but we also started reading The Light of Egypt.
Burgoyne, this guy is crazy about Burgoyne.
I really enjoyed Thomas Burgoyne.
Me personally, I would say God, Man, the World Made Flesh. That was probably the biggest book that I think pushed me on my path, and that was mainly because the book God Designed by Kelly Marie Kerr, she frequently referenced it, and it was one of the books I saw you referencing very frequently was Carrie's work.
Yeah.
So his was really interesting, and I think he made a super strong case for the presence of this evidence in the Bible through the allegory.
And not only that, but also the Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation. That's a really great one too. And I remember you had mentioned in one of your videos that essentially Carrie, Schussler, Paracelsus, and Hippocrates were all very related in their own thinking, centered around the sacred secretion process, if I recall that correctly.
Yep.
So when was it that you specifically discovered this gift? Do you remember that moment?
I think it was in about 2007 or 2008. Stumbled across a video called Sex, the Secret Garden to Eden. And it was based on The Perfect Matrimony, a book by Samael Aumweor, who was a mystic and who studied all the ancient scriptures with regard to divine sexuality and white tantra. The video was made based on that book, so I also got the book and realized that it harmonized completely and perfectly with what Carrie was doing, and how to become Christened through ethical and proper sex.
Was there one particular author or person that spoke to you or anything like that that resonated in a particularly significant way that I guess reaffirms what you were thinking, that this harmonized well with everything or anything like that?
Just those guys there, really, but there's plenty of others as well who are teaching it on YouTube, like Mantak and guys like that. The problem with some of those guys is I think they teach grey tantra sometimes. I'm not sure whether it's pure white.
Gotcha.
These guys make a mistake if they believe that there should be times when you can discharge that Holy Spirit. There's never any time you can. So that's not a pressure on anyone. You know, that's not going to cause any problems should you make a mistake, or should you not do the process correctly. There's eternity, but I mean, obviously the individuals who want to achieve greatness and who are serious about truth more than just superficially, they want to lead the way, I guess, and be extra diligent in the process, so you can hasten the ascension process. You do feel your consciousness expand, you do transform, you do grow, you do get enlightenment, and you get bliss as well, because when you ejaculate, all you get is misery.
Agreed.
It's yeah, it's miserable. Every second after you've ejaculated is sheer and utter misery.
You are speaking truths. You are speaking truths.
And with me, I've got a partner now, a beautiful Mexican woman who has been a follower of syncretism for 9 years, and we never indulge in anything of grey or black tantra, and
Gotcha.
we are very romantic. I want to reach the level where I just have to be in the presence of my partner and I'm having a blissful orgasm. I don't want to just have that feeling when you are necessarily private and intimate. I want to take it out, when we're walking on the beach. I want to have it when we're driving in the car. I want to have that that feeling. And there's only one way you can have a perpetual orgasm, and that is through non-ejaculation. You're not discharging that sexual energy which you've just generated. You've been there for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. I don't know how long you want to time the experience,
right.
But why not harvest that energy? Why not be in control of your organism? Learn how to regenerate those fluids, have intimacy and whatever you need to express your sexuality, and then feel that energy grow. And what happens is, rather than getting to that gate, to that point where man and woman lose their control and then they discharge that energy because the passions, rather than doing that, when you learn to control that coiled serpent, that dragon, that
Kundalini,
that energy, and focus on the spiritual process that's going on, the more now you are in orgasm, romantic mode,
right.
rather than ejaculatory, lustful mode. And this is why sex is so horrible in the world. The world practices sex which facilitates, enables, and supports the abortion industry,
yep.
the venereal disease industry, and the contraception industry.
As well as the consciousness industry, if you want to think of it that way. I think all of our consciousness is under attack.
It seems to contribute to a lot of misery in relationships, romantic or otherwise, as well.
Unwanted children as well.
Everything wrong.
Yep.
Everything wrong. Everything is wrong about ejaculation. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. As George Carey said in his book, you have only a certain amount of chrism, which gives you charisma, allocated at birth. So if you're going to go around and wasting that, as you do with your breaths, shallow breathing, you die earlier. We all know this. We only have a certain amount of breaths allocated at birth. And so that's why the ancients taught that if you breathe properly and slowly, you will live longer. And George Carey stipulated that the same is true with the chrism. Each one is born, has incarnated with a certain amount of sexual force in their field, in their sexual field. So people with strong sexual force, they have a lot of chrism allocated to them. But that doesn't mean that they should go squandering it. Polyamorous partners, for instance, they have nothing but ejaculatory sex, polyamorous people. So what they're doing is they're murdering their own bodies, spirits, and souls.
And their minds. Yep.
That's how dangerous it is.
Yes.
And that's why pornography is so popular, because it only contains lustful sex. There's no romance.
Right.
You don't ever see like conversations going on.
Right.
No, you do not.
Yeah.
Drinking a cup of coffee and tea and candles and spiritual, intelligent thought. Nope. All you see is like monkeys.
Yeah, you're right.
No.
You're right. That it's really gross, honestly, and it completely defiles one of the hermetic principles of gender, which I think is extraordinarily under attack right now. The principle of the male and female duality, the existence of both, and the bridging of those, creating the hermaphroditic Hermes and Aphrodite combination to create the one God brain, as you had mentioned earlier. Santos, I have a theory, because I've read a lot of Carey's work, and I love Carey's work, and I wanted to run this theory by you. So after reading Manly P. Hall, Secret Teachings of All Ages, Thomas Burgoyne, Light of Egypt, we've read a lot of Carey's works. One of the things that I know Burgoyne and Manly P. Hall, and I know that you've mentioned Manly P. Hall on some of your videos before. I don't know how you feel fully about him, because I know some people are on the fence about him as a writer. But they harp on the importance of the spleen, and there's also a chakra that is named after one of the spleen itself. And Carrie goes on to speculate about the cytophysical germ within the human body that is created through the sinking of the moon. And what I've noticed when I look into a lot of these different things is Manly P. Hall especially, he really loves the spleen. He loves to talk about the spleen. He says the spleen is one of the three major organs in the human body that helps create the torus field that we generate all throughout our lives. So after looking at the anatomy of the spleen, it seems as though about a fourth of it is created out of white pulp. It looks like a tree almost with little follicles. And then you further go and do research, and you find that the spleen is actually basically the central headquarters of our immune system. And it is the number one location that creates plasma cells, not blood plasma, but plasma cells, such as white blood cells and the like. My theory, because of the location of the spleen, because of the etymology of it, because of the anatomy of it, because of how it interacts when you overeat, how it interacts when you ejaculate, my theory is that this germ could potentially be made within the spleen, because that would essentially be Jesus within the baby, the manger of the child. Now, I'm not saying this is fact at all. I wanted to get your opinion on that, and if you have heard or read anything that might be similar, because I'm trying to locate, maybe I'm thinking about it in the wrong way, but I'm trying to locate where anatomically this energy could be generated.
Yeah, the spleen's an interesting one. I know I've got a friend who doesn't have a spleen.
Mm-hmm.
So all those things you said, as you were saying those, I was wondering, I spent a lot of time with him, and he does martial arts. He's Scorpio. He's very athletic, very energized.
Ruled by Mars, yeah.
Yeah. So when he was young, they removed his spleen.
Okay.
He's so pissed off about that. It's not funny. He's like really, really angry. But I don't see any vitality lost. I don't see that he's lost any hope of raising the chrism.
Okay.
I don't think any physical deformity should necessarily prohibit one from ascending and performing their function correctly in the ascension process.
Okay, I agree with that.
So, because a lot of people write to me saying, "Oh, look, I'm missing a disc, my T11 or something."
Yeah, in the spine.
Or I don't have. I had an operation where I snipped my tubes or whatever it's called, the process, things like that. As long as you're breathing and you're conscious, I think evolution and ascension and raising the chrism is possible.
Okay.
I think the only way that it's not possible is through a bad, rotten heart of someone who is intent on going down the left-hand path,
right,
which is
malicious.
Yeah, it's dissension, not ascension. So, but as for the spleen, getting back to that, yes, I think it's one of the organs that produces the corpuscles, as Carrie said, but there must be others.
Yes.
Because here's my friend Andrew, who doesn't have a spleen, and his other function, everything else in him works. So I think some organs share certain tasks, certain functions.
Right, that is correct.
So, I mean, we've got lots of sexual organs. We don't just have our genitalia. We have our eyes, our tongues, our lips, our mind.
They can all stimulate.
Our skin.
They can all stimulate arousal.
Right. Okay, so the same with the senses. Once upon a time, our eyes could smell. And our ears could see.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Once upon a time, the electricity was so pure through resonance in the golden age that the senses could do everything. You see, so the stomach was not the only digestive organ, and it isn't. But that's how it worked. It worked in a way that the whole body was one thing and could do everything. So your body is your mind, really. Think of it that way. You really can see through your skin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's called intuition.
Yeah, that's exactly true. That and not only that, but depending on what you do to other parts of your body, like the foods you eat, or if you ejaculate a lot, it can rot your mind. It can destroy your mind completely.
It's also the capability of your mind directing your body in an almost reflexive way. It's
right.
even in martial arts, it's common. Musashi called it the strike of non-thought.
Yes.
Because after so much time and experience and practice and having your mind in the right space, it will do what your body needs to be done in that moment without you having to think about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to make sure that we could get this podcast done before mid-February because I know you had mentioned your availability was limited, but I believe today or tomorrow Mercury goes into retrograde, so I wanted to make sure that we could. Yeah,
that was my reaction too.
Yep.
I'm never pleased about it, but I guess it is what it is.
Yeah. So why don't you share maybe a little bit of Mercury retrograde with some of the viewers here and what that can generally mean? Because we were just making sure that the alignments were proper. We didn't want to do this while Mercury was within retrograde, if that makes sense.
Yeah, look, Mercury is an absolute trickster. All kinds of things happen. All kinds of weird, stupid, backward, incomprehensible things happen. Hang on to your seats when Mercury goes retrograde because it is freaking hectic.
Yep.
For me, my Mercury in Pisces, where he is in fall and in detriment.
Yep, and
that's funny. Same here. That's where mine is.
His Mercury is also in Pisces. Yep.
Mercury retrogrades for 21 days, so 3 weeks. And Mercury is in an epicycle with the Sun. And Mercury and Venus do not have their own separate cycles, as do Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn.
Right.
So that's what the retrograde is. We see that as he's going around. That's like a loop that it does.
Right.
But those two planets are caught within the Sun's Taurus field. So that's why Venus and Mercury always follow the Sun, right? They say in the Copernican, this is how you can tell they're such liars. In the Copernican model, they say that Venus and Mercury has an 88-day, goes around the Sun in 88 days, and Venus.
It's not true.
200. No, it's not 224 days, which is less than the Sun, but they're not. They go around exactly the same when corrected as the Sun. You know, some years it will be it'll be 300 and maybe 25 days for Venus. Other years it'll be a bit longer, like 390 days for Venus. But when corrected, when averaged out, they're always with the Sun because they go around the Sun. So when Mercury is retrograding, it's not good for things like traveling, commerce, business deals, writing, launching, say, movies or anything to do with entertainment or communications, transport, losing mail.
Yep.
Lots of fighting because it disturbs the mental field. It's very mental. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. For me, it's the worst retrograding planet. It causes me a lot of harm, always.
Gotcha.
That's the one I can definitely feel, that's for sure. And it seems that I can notice it with people. They just seem to be, some people are scatterbrained, some people seem to be more aggressive. I guess it's different for everybody because it messes with their mental field in a unique way.
I've already started noticing people slipping in my personal life. Some of my family members making just very simple mistakes. But every single time that it does go into retrograde, I track it. And I know for a fact that, because I also have started getting into a sector called financial astrology, just to track planetary motions in alignment with things like the stock market or anything like that. Not for me to make money, but because a lot of people I know, especially in the West, are very focused on just making money, believing that that's the ultimate goal of life. But what I do with that is I show them, look, I can call when the money's going to go down or up based off of the planetary motions. There's a real whole science of it. There's a lot of people that interpret the Kabbalah and use that to drive markets up and down. So It's I like to always make sure I know where the planets are, just constantly, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. But thank you for that explanation. That's really great. Then hopefully this will save some people in the next few weeks from making any big, major, important decisions. So I did want to ask you more about your natal, because I actually don't think I know your moon sign or your ascendant.
Right, are you guys Arians?
No, sir.
So I actually wanted to ask you if you wanted to guess.
You both got Mercury in Pisces.
No, I don't.
Just me.
He does. My Mercury is within. My Mercury's on the cusp of Gemini and Cancer.
But it's in Gemini, is it?
I believe so. Yeah, it's on degree 1 or 0.
Lucky.
Yeah, good. On degree 0, and then it's in Cancer. It's in Cancer.
Okay, it's in Cancer. Well, I'll just tell you directly. Cancer's my sun sign. So my sun is Cancer, my moon is Taurus, and my ascendant is Sagittarius. Rich over here, his sun is Pisces, his moon is Gemini, and his ascendant is Leo. And we've actually been friends since we were 7 years old, and like the sun and the moon, we clung to each other. So and also we have some pretty heavy Jupiterian in us as well. But wanted to get your take on that. I mean, I see it in myself. I know you're an Aries sun sign. I see the Cancer in myself. I got the big round face. I'm pale. I'm very, very pale. I've always been pale. I have some of the Taurian aspects of myself. The home of the moon is Cancer. The moon is exalted in Taurus. So I've always had an affinity for the moon. That's always been my thing. And he's always kind of shone like the sun. So we kind of always were there with each other going through life. We've always been best friends, and it's just kind of went on and on and on throughout life.
I've shared mine all over the place in videos. I always talk about my astrology because people know me, I don't know them. So when I talk about myself astrologically, they can then understand how astrology works and see it, because it's I can very, very, very much express my astrology so that people can understand and see what's in my nature quite easily. And so I enjoy talking about my own astrology. My sun is in Aries, just near the equinox on the 24th of March. I'm blessed with that number 24, as it is the 24 hours of the day. So I'm a teacher of the ecliptic, which is a 24-day cycle in astrology. So that's a nice position for the sun because it exalts in Aries. My rising sign is Leo, 17th degree, so there's twin fire. And I've got Mars on the 5th degree of Leo, an excellent degree, trining with my 3rd degree sun in Aries. So Mars in the heart, fire, the sun in the cerebrum. So you've got the two fires of Mars and sun reciprocating. That's called a reciprocation because the sun rules Leo, the heart, and Mars rules Aries, the cerebrum.
Right.
So that's a reciprocation, and that's what gives me, I believe, a great power in syncretism. Because when the mind, the lamb and the lion lay down together, the cerebrum and the heart chakra are connected, then, intuition and syncretism, logic and intuition come together. And my moon sign is Pisces. So the sun at the head, the moon at my feet, and my rising sign is at the heart level. So astrologically, I think that is a perfect combination for me. Because I see myself as a shepherd, as Arians always are. They're leaders, they're courageous, they're martial, they can be aggressive, they lead the way, they love to enlighten people. And Leo is the heart, and I've got a lot of passion in my heart with Mars in Leo. So that gives me Jesus, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. That gives me Jesus, the Lamb of God, Hiram Abif, or the Hiram above. and it gives me Jesus, the fisher of men, Pisces. And I love to go fishing. In fact, in my Jehovah's Witness days, when we used to go knocking on the doors for 30 years, I jokingly would say that I'm going fishing for men. So I have my feet shod for the good work, for preaching the truth. And I've got all the other signs all connected up. I have Jupiter and Mercury 1 degree apart in Pisces, as well as my moon in Pisces. I have Jupiter where he is in domicile, right next to my unfortunate Piscean Mercury, right next to it. Mercury's 26 degrees, Jupiter's 27 degrees. And Jupiter is my highest degree planet, therefore making him the ruler of my chart in many ways of interpreting the ruler of the chart. But in many other ways, Jupiter is the most prominent ruler of my chart, and the Sun with Leo rising, can't deny that. And I do have a strong Mars as well.
Would you have any general tips or advice for people who are getting into astrology and trying to figure out what their natal chart might mean?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I love how you, not only do I love how you explained your chart with such honor and grace about yourself, but it's a wonderful way for people at home to take this extremely seriously and look past the horoscope, not the original horoscope, but the horoscope BS that they try to propagate as like the legitimate astrology these days. What's the best way to explain to the people at home, I guess, to interpret their energies, if that makes sense?
Just any tips for people to try to understand their natal chart, how they would go about really reading it without, getting sucked down these paths of horoscopes, pay to play natal charts,
right.
Buying advice from people, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How to avoid all that.
By watching my videos, simple.
There you go.
Watching my videos where I do the sine wave and the torus field.
Yes.
On the whiteboard. So, because why? Because I'm speaking about how nature, electromagnetism works. Astrology is the science of electromagnetics. It's the only fully developed system of explaining how the universe works electromagnetically.
I agree
period.
with that. Agreed.
Yeah, that's why you have 4 elements. In ancient days, the platonic elements were fire, air, water, and earth. Today, our quantum physicians tell us that they are solid, liquid, gas, and plasma.
The Vatican system.
Right. So start with that as a foundation, understanding that they are 4 frequencies. We live in a universe, a physical, phenomenal universe of 4 set frequencies. One is solid, earth. The other one is watery, liquid, moving. My body's moving because of hydrogen in my body. So, but my bones, that's solid. Gas, I'm breathing. The spark in my eyes that you can see, that's atomic plasma. My heart is beating by atomic plasma. That's fire, plasma. Plasma is in every atom. It's the core of every atom is a hyperbole.
Yeah.
That is plasma. Plasma is PLA, which PAL becomes POL, which is pole, polarity. Bol gets converted to pole. Polarity, pulse. There's another word. It's a plasma pulse. Plasma and pulse are the same word. Because that's what plasma does. That's where everything originates with fire, the spark.
Yes.
But it's the pulse, which is plasma.
These are great explanations, Santos.
Right. Yep. So when you understand those 4 fields for a start, right, then you're starting to, you look at your chart and you see, my sun's in Capricorn. So I must be of the solid frequency. What does that mean? Well, that means I'm pretty grounded, earth, practical, realistic, success-driven, earthy, grounded, solid, stable, reliable. Perhaps not all Capricorns are going to be how I'm describing, but that is the energy of Capricorn, because you have to remember there are 144 different Capricorns.
Yeah, that's right.
As there are 144 of each other sign. Because when you combine the moon, see, I'm an Aries with a Pisces moon. So there are 12 different fundamental Arians, because every Arian has been given a moon.
Right.
So that now changes the way the Aries archetype is expressed.
Yes.
Now it's conditioned by the moon. So that's one condition. The next condition is the rising sign. So there's 12 rising signs as well. I have a Leo rising. So in that way, when you multiply 12 moons by 12 risings against one sun sign, you get 144
That's right.
variants of one sign.
Mm-hmm.
So this has to be taken into consideration as well. So, but the point I'm getting at is, if you begin with a fundamental understanding of frequencies and energy and vibrations and the sine wave and resonance, when you start thinking in terms of waves and the 4 frequencies that are set, and then you mix them with the 3 modalities, cardinal, mutable, a cardinal fixed, mutable, everything is born, grows and decays, everything is created, generated or preserved, then destroyed, Brahma, Shiva.
Yep.
So that's what cardinal, fixed and mutable is.
Yep.
So when you mix, when you have Capricorn, that's cardinal earth. That's the beginning of earth.
Right.
Taurus is fixed earth. It's a different kind of frequency. It's conditioned.
Yes.
Virgo is mutable earth. So there are 3 earth signs and 3 conditions of those signs. So Capricorn is the beginning part of the earth frequency. Taurus is the middle, generation or preservation, stable, fixed condition of earth. And then the mutable Virgo is changing that earthiness and making it more, giving it a different condition, which is more akin to the destructive kind. All the mutable signs have to do with Shiva, the destructive kind of element in which they are decomposing it somehow and blending in other elements. For instance, Gemini is now blending in a little bit of Cancer's water and the heat of summer, because Gemini is the last sign of spring, hence it's the destroyer of spring.
That makes sense.
Cancer is the opening, the cardinal
sign, yep,
of summer. So Virgo is going to be at the end of that summer period, and it's going to destroy, like Shiva, it's going to destroy the summer, and hence Libra ushers in the autumn. And so when you look at your chart and look at the elements, knowing that the 12 signs are different conditions and states and frequencies, then you begin in a natural way to understand how astrology can teach you everything about your nature. Everything is mapped out in your chart, everything.
Right. Even
the day you die.
Yep. Do you know the day that you're going to die based off of your chart?
No, I don't, because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be honest
same here,
with you.
man.
Yeah, I would just enjoy living rather than knowing that.
Let it be a surprise.
Yeah, and besides, I don't think that anyone has that knowledge. I'm saying what I said before, that every single detail of your life is in the chart, is so true. But here's the thing. Every degree of arc of the ecliptic has 60 minutes and 60 seconds.
Yep.
And the Babylonians and the Egyptians, for over 450,000 years, tabulated the meanings of every one of those degrees, 360, with each of them, there's 60 minutes, and each of those 60 minutes, there's 60 degrees. They tabulated, they had the science accurately for every degree, minute, and second of what would actually occur to the individual.
Isn't that amazing?
So they knew that if one was born on the 5th degree of Aries with the 58th minute and the 13th second, once they had all that information, then they would know how to chart all the maps transiting the planets of the native, and they would know if Mars conjuncts that's your sun on that 5th degree, and etc.,
right.
that you would have surgery on your right finger, or that your ear would be cut off in a car accident.
Right.
It would have every single detail. It would even have the ability to tell you where you lost your keys.
Wow.
It would even give you the ability to know, what's happening to your child when you're 10,000 miles away on the other side of the earth. That's what I mean. Yeah. The Roman Empire came and went about conquistadoring the Americas, destroying the Mayan culture, destroying the Egyptian, hoarding all of the Carthaginians' libraries in Alexandria and all of
the Library of Alexandria, yep.
All of the libraries, all of the Neoplatonic and Hermetic wisdom that once abounded in syncretic wisdom in the earth, which included the knowledge of all the minutes, degrees, minutes, and seconds of arc of the ecliptic, so that we could know all things. But now, here I am, an astrologer, and people say, "Oh, read my chart, Santos," and all I can do with my limited knowledge of astrology is tell them, like a doctor who is very limited as well. Right? You can get a real misdiagnosis real easy by doctors these days.
Oh, for sure.
As the same as the astrologers. I'm just one of those astrologers who has a lot of knowledge, as I do with, say, music, but I can't do everything with music.
That's true. And to add on to your point, Santos, you may run into somebody who is as gifted and intelligent as Santos, and they might be able to read and interpret things about your chart. But ultimately, the person who's going to know more about yourself and your chart, if you have the research to be able to interpret the things, is yourself. I think you as the individual are probably one of the best, especially if you care enough about it to do the research to figure out what different aspects mean, conjunctions, the 15 Bohemian stars, which are very vital in interpreting a chart, the fortune, the Lilith, all those different aspects which are thrown into the chart at different degrees, at different times, at different intervals, like Santos said. If you actually put in the effort, you can interpret your chart extremely well, hopefully to the point where you can start mapping out a better lifestyle if you see something in the chart that says something negative. For example, in my chart, it says that I was going to have a very bad relationship with my mother. And I'm also a Cancerian male, which, according to Burgoyne, said I would also have probably a bad relationship with my father. Both of those are true. Both of those ended up becoming true, and I didn't have a good relationship with either of my parents. So, ultimately speaking, I think if you have the right materials, you can interpret your chart, and more things will make sense as you learn. It's more of a progressional thing. But wonderfully said, Santos. Absolutely wonderfully said. Is there anything you wanted to add on top of that? Because I had another question for you.
Hit me with another question, and we'll probably finish off, because I've got to go and see my mechanic. He's got bad news for me.
Oh, really?
Well, sorry to hear that, but I hope it's not too bad.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been having I bought a tracker, which is a Chevrolet 4-wheel drive, really cheap.
Yeah.
But it had a lot of problems with it, so I've spent so much money, and now he's giving me the bad news 2 days before I leave for Querétaro to go and do the Ojuelos Stones tour, which will be up on my channel. So we're going to go and see some ancient ruins and stones, and And so that's not good. So I'm going to have to do that because it's 4 p.m. He's only got another couple of hours till he's open.
Have you ever, or do you know anybody, especially since you're in the Southern Americas right now, have you experienced or know of anybody who's experienced ayahuasca or has taken DMT? And how do you feel about that? Ayahuasca being the brew, the DMT drink brew that they make in Brazil, where you can drink it, and they claim that you can basically astral project out of your body, and you can see different sorts of spirits and visions and things of that nature. DMT is also dimethyltryptamine created in the pineal gland within the mind. When you dream, when you meditate, and you get very good at it. So I wanted to ask your opinion on that.
Well, I've done lots of DMT. I've done lots of ayahuasca as well. So They helped me. I needed those. I'm not recommending that people necessarily go out and do that because some people do not need artificial ascension protocols. That's what I would call them.
Yes.
They don't need. Others do. Others do need it. I needed purging. I had a lot of parasites. We all do. We all are full and saturated and dying due to mites and parasites or little, what my friend calls insects and spiders in the body. So ayahuasca is good in purging things like that. I've done kumbo as well. It really, really was beneficial for me, and I haven't done anything like that for a while now, and I don't need to. Every now and then I smoke a cigar. I love tobacco. Tobacco is very purgative as well, very good. Every now and then I recommend smoking a Cuban, just get that tobacco. Tobacco is a holy plant, cleanses you, nourishes your nervous system. You don't have to, with cigars, you don't have to draw in, it's just in the saliva, and you're just sort of pretty much masticating it, and you're getting the strength and the medicinal value of it. I really believe in the power of tobacco. That's the only thing I do. I do have a lot of good cannabis. Like I do drops with THC.
Okay.
But every now and then I'll have a pipe, and that's it. But there'll be months, there'll be days, weeks where I don't like having cannabis. I just don't like it.
I agree with that. Yep, and we've had our fair share for sure, especially in the West. It's blown up. Cannabis has blown up,
especially if you go to college.
Especially if you go to Western colleges, it's blown up. But the reason I had asked you about DMT was because I've actually done DMT once. And I wanted to share my experience real quick with you before we let you go, because this was the moment for me where I was a stupid Western American kid, had absolutely no idea about the unfounded truths, grew up in a very poor household, and when I was in college, I was able to get a hold of DMT. Never heard of it. I didn't take too much, and I sent it out of my body, and I was floating above the earth, and I came into contact with this being, this spiritual entity that at first it showed itself as a rainbow-colored serpent with a crystal in its forehead before it transformed itself into a woman. And I was sitting there, and she was explaining these truths to me. She was explaining that human beings have a power. That she was explaining that there's a deep-rooted subconscious of humanity in general that needs to be awakened. And she said if we didn't do it, that there could ultimately be a weaker force field around the earth because we act all as cells on her body. And if we all lower our force fields, her force field lowers, and that opens us up to being attacked from external things such as comets, solar flares, energy pulses and radiation throughout the universe, etc., etc. But that moment changed my life, and after that I was a completely different person, because I feel like it's tantamount to the sacred secretion process, and having more people understand just taking care of yourself, connecting to the universe, actually benefits all people on the planet. It's not just yourself. It helps us all become higher vibrational frequency. So I wanted to share that, and I wanted to get, if you had any opinions or interpretations, if you thought maybe I did meet something that was, trying to dissuade me, or maybe I met something that was trying to give me some hope and some positive information.
How you were transformed is exactly what is going on with DMT. That's what exactly happens. It's healing. It's, if you allow it to be like a teacher, it will heal and purge and cleanse and transform you. Again, the individual must know and must be clean and holy when they do these things with good intention.
Yes.
It's not always going to be good for everybody to rush off and do something like that. I really don't believe that. I think some people don't need it at all. So just want to put that out there. I did, and I did lots of stuff, and it blessed me, every one of them. I've never had a bad trip, never had anything. They've all been good,
yeah.
And they've all helped me on my path. But I think personally, I think I'm done with a lot of those things. I don't look forward to them much at all, like I used to. I'm getting that from my own natural self now.
Well, thank you. I know that we've talked about doing ayahuasca together sometime in the future, but personally, I completely agree with that. I only did it the one time. I was very focused for many, many days before that, purged myself of my own negative emotions. I had a wonderful experience, and ultimately, I would say it changed my life. But I will agree with you 1,000,000% that people who take it generally probably don't need it, and if they do need it, they need to be in a very specific. You will never be able to take it if it's your first time going into it and expect anything to go the way that you want it to. It is a very different experience from living on this plane of existence compared to when you leave your body. And I don't think anybody's really ready for it until you actually experience it. But that to say, your point, not everybody needs to experience it. Somehow it fell into my lap. It fell into my lap through a very odd assortment of things. Somehow I got a hold of it, and when I did it, I had this extremely transforming experience, and I wanted to share some of that with you. But one of these days, Santos, one of these days when you're either in the States or if we're ever visiting you, we're gonna have a cigar together. We'll sit around and we'll share stories and whatnot. But I know that we are wrapping up here on time, so
Come down to Mexico, man. It's the best place to hang out anytime, anywhere in the world right now. So
okay.
I'd recommend you head to Mexico. Anyone. I'm facilitating and helping a lot of people come here. I've probably had hundreds of people come to Mexico just on my recommendation alone. And I'm hanging out with people every day, syncretists, Playa del Carmen, Puerto Morelos, Tulum, Cancun. It's just amazing here, the consciousness and everything. So if you want to do that, get a flight down to Cancun, and I'll look after you.
If you say that, we will absolutely take you up on that, and we will keep in touch with you. And of course, we're not going to have a free ride or anything. We're going to bring our own cash, but we would absolutely take you up on that, and I'll personally buy whatever Cuban cigar you want. We'll sit out on the beach or something, and we'll have a good time.
All right.
Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure you comment, subscribe. Please go subscribe to Mr. Astrotheology on YouTube. That's Santos Bonacci. He is a visionary in the realm of metaphysics and spirituality, as well as good health. So please go follow him. And once again, if you like this, go like some of his videos. Go check out what he's doing. Thank you once again, Santos. If there's anything we could ever do for you, this means probably more than you think it does to us, because you, in our eyes, you're one of our heroes. So thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. Take care.
Yep.
Much love.
Good luck to you. Happy travels.
Much love to you as well.